Oi, oi! I am quite hungry. Hit the gym hard. Haven't eaten much today. And I really need to review Hard to Kill. So I thought I'd combine the two. So here we are. Allow me to salt my whole duck before we start going through the pre-show to Hard to Kill, which for a human being in the UK was I think 1 a.m. I can't remember now. What I do remember is being surprised that you didn't get the pre-show on the pay-per-view purchase. I purchased the pay-per-view through YouTube, which I've never done before, and I won't do again because you don't get unlimited replays, unlike Fight. With Fight, I've had with an Impact pay-per-view. Actually, I had some transmission issues, and it kind of screwed up a couple of matches on that pay-per-view. It was pretty bad, so I haven't gone back since to Fight. I don't know if that was a Fight issue or something more on the Impact end of things. But so last minute, I went to TNA Plus, the website, and signed up to access the pre-show. So they got me there and ran the laptop to the TV to watch the pre-show on a bigger screen. And but I had to switch to YouTube, which I watched on the PlayStation, but it was not a very reliable signal, so I went back to watching the pay-per-view on the laptop through web browser YouTube, linked up to the TV. So that was that. I actually tuned into the pre-show as Rich Swann was making his way towards the ring. I don't normally get excited for pre-shows, but this being the first rebranded show for TNA, I couldn't wait to see what the venue itself looked like, what the kind of crowd response would be. And surprisingly, Macklin was on the pre-show card, and I'm happy to watch him sort of do anything. And I was a bit concerned. I thought if he loses, he's going to go off and be with his wife to be. I'm not sure if they've tied the knot quite yet. But fortunately, he won. So let's kick off with the first match of the pre-show, Swann versus Macklin. Swann doing his sort of typical good energy, getting the crowd going style. And right off the bat, you could see the crowd was sort of, I imagine, on the house, decorated with these little yellow handkerchiefs. I don't know what you'd call them. Hand towels? I don't know. Flannels? I think they're larger than that. But anyway, everyone had one, which was a great visual for when the pay-per-view did kick off with Eric Young, which we'll get into later. So I noticed that quickly. Yellow ropes are a bit on the eye, a bit rough on the eye. But, I assume it's just a pay-per-view color scheme thing because the Hard to Kill title was in yellow, wasn't it? So we'll see. I prefer blue or red on a regular basis. The beautiful TNA logo center of the ring, gorgeous, and a sort of a greyish matte. Love it, love it. Mac hitting some high impact moves. The crowd were a bit darkly lit, but they were quite vocal. I'm sort of referring to notes I made as I was watching the match. And Macklin hitting a Boston Crab and turning Swann into a rag doll, I've got written here. Mac didn't lose, so I can ignore my sad smiley there. Mac did indeed win the match and appeared on the pay-per-view later on to say that he was going to power through anyone at the company now. And, of course, that TNA acknowledging the aspect of continuity week to week, unlike other promotions. He confronted Nemeth, which was cool. So I'm glad to see Macklin is perhaps not in the title picture yet, but is still given some sort of prime spotlight stuff. So he's going to be feuding with Nemeth going forward, I imagine. Then we had a promo with Eddie Edwards Myers, the wife to Edwards, Alicia, and Moose, saying that we are the system. Sort of an anti-establishment vibe going on here, kind of heelish. So that was interesting. They've established something new. So going into the pay-per-view, quite a few people, myself included, had wondered, where's the build-up? So I thought, they're just going to start fresh. Let's see what they present on the night. And so on the pre-show, we've got this new sort of heel group, the system. I would like to see some slightly younger blood in there. I think they could fill that role could be filled by sort of a heel X Division talent. Whether someone would turn heel or join the company as an X Division star wrestler and as a heel character remains to be seen. And then we had, I think it was his name, AJ Francis had his in-ring skit. And then, fortunately for the viewer, Joe Hendry interrupted that. I wrote here that the little yellow flannels had a sort of Hulkamania vibe going on there. Hendry over with the crowd, which was great. The Cheez-It champion, ha 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 ha. But Joe got a beatdown, quite an epic choke slam he received. But then nothing really come of that. Anyway, so then after that, we got a cinematic trailer for the Hard to Kill pay-per-view. I believe that's one they'd already previously shown. We've got a quick shot of Jordan Grace entering the building, looking juicy, and also Trinity entering the venue. So that was obviously the singles knockout championship match to come. Yes, and on the pre-show we had EY and Kaz in a tag match. Versus Eddie Edwards and Myers, I believe. Although I'm getting completely mixed up now because in my mind I can visualize the recent TNA Impact show. I can't picture them fighting the two guys from the system. I believe that's correct. Announced by I won't try and pronounce their name. Jade Chung, Josh Alexander's wife. I noticed that the system Trinitron featured a little logo of Moose's little Moose logo. Anyway, Kaz, the heavy metal rebel, who has now turned complete heel, if you've seen the newest TNA Impact show. EY looking great, moving well. Oh, EY's entrance was particularly good. Really nice lighting, really nice mask piece. This match started at about the 28-minute mark, 28 minutes remaining until the pay-per-view was to kick off. Now, Kaz, mustn't forget I've got a whole Dutch to eat. Kaz is amazing for his age, or any age really. Moving great, quick, snappy. He looks hungry for it as well. It's awesome. Kaz is awesome. Wow! Exclamation mark. EY leaping over the ropes. Yes, he did. Should this have been a pay-per-view match? I mean, it could have been. It's great that it's on the pre-show. I think I can't really say it should have replaced anything on the pay-per-view card, but that's just to sort of complement the pay-per-view card itself, really, isn't it? EY and Edwards had a nice crossbody clash. Kaz fit as a fiddle, landing on his knees and bouncing up like a spring chicken. I've written here. Speaking of chickens, let's have a go at this this ugly duck, which I'll be eating with my ugly hand. Kaz hitting a slingshot cutter. Nice dominating spell from Kaz. EY, perfect top rope elbow drop. He does do those. Absolutely textbook, doesn't he? But the system win, which perhaps influenced Kaz's heel turn when he said this was supposed to be my year. when he turned on EY the following week. It was filmed the next night, but yeah, Taz and EY feuding, love it. Next, we had Crazy Steve, the match I was least interested in of the whole night, but at least put the belt on Crazy Steve, please. I don't think they should have put it on Tommy Dreamer. So this was for the digital media belt, which looks great. It was a no DQ match. And Steve came out first to dark lighting. It was so dark, I could not appreciate his costume. Dreamer wearing the classic TNA logo and the "We're fucking back" on the back. So that's the sort of a newer release piece of merch there since the rebranding announcement. Dreamer receiving mixed cheers and boos. I just didn't have anything really coming out of my mouth. No emotion to his participation. At this point on the pre-show, we had 13.5 minutes left to the pay-per-view. Steve is over with the crowd good because I'm assuming they're going to put the belt on him, and they did. There's a nice drop toe hold onto a chair, and it actually looked quite bad. So that's perhaps good selling from Dreamer or an unpleasant bump. Otherwise, a bit slow and boring, I found this match to be. Dreamer with a nice power slam with a chair. I think he held that to the back of Crazy Steve as he slammed him down, so that was nice. Steve with a nice cutter with head inside chair, tapes Dreamer's hands, and then we get a bag of forks. Something clearly I'm not utilizing tonight, a fork or any utensils. I do have some chopsticks here, but I don't really know how that's going to work with a whole duck. So, yeah, I won't be pretending to be cultured and using chopsticks tonight. Steve wins. Good, nice end spot. Cool. Let's move on with that. Angel of Death. I was thinking of playing the Angel of Death Slayer track on guitar, but I'm too tired and hungry, and I've already done like 2 metal guitar videos recently, so I think we're doing all right for metal content at the moment. Then we get an Ultimate X nostalgia trailer to hype up the Knockout Ultimate X match to come, which the commentary, who were in the sort of booth, they had everything but those little binocular pieces that one might use at an opera performance or something fancy. In the booth, I thought that was really it's quite charming, actually, and quite funny. And they announced that the Ultimate X match, the knockout one, would be the first match of the pay-per-view. So that was the end of that. And I switched over to, if only you could see what I've got playing on my TV. Let's just say it's some TNA motivation, if you know what I mean. Whatever it takes, whatever it takes. So the pay-per-view. New cinematic is voiced by EY. It gave me chills and goosebumps. EY comes out to the crowd. They sort of blend in the trailer narration to the point where EY is now doing it live, finishing this piece live. Gave me goosebumps. And the sort of TNA staff and crew were there. Personal crew, but I think some more of the talent that were backstage were on stage. Gail Kim and Scott D'Amore stood out. Goosebumps. I fucking loved it. I was amped up, as you can see in my short videos. Amazing opening. Amazing. Perfect. And that shot where EY raises his arms and like walks a little down the ramp, and that rear shot over the shoulder of EY, you can see that crowd with this sort of a tear to it, sort of round crowd arrangement, and it was just beautiful. And the little TNA hand flannels being shook in the air. It was brilliant. I love it. I've watched that multiple times, and it makes me feel great. I love it. And then we go straight into the Ultimate X match, which To be honest, women's wrestling can be very hit or miss, pun intended. But, you know, we give it a go. But they really went at it. Quite wild, action-packed. I wrote down here, Alicia is looking hot AF. And, no, they really tried to give us a sort of a TNA total non-stop action match, which I appreciate. And there were some good spots there. I forget the move, but there was one wrestler had two opponents on her back at one point, which is quite impressive. And the I've written here, the ring rumbles like fuck. So I was really pleased with the sort of audio set up for the ring. It adds to the atmosphere. The crowd are into it, which is great. And I quite like the commentary team that they've got. It was at this point I had a notification that my cameo for Mike Bailey had arrived, which, of course, I put off watching because I didn't want to interrupt the pay-per-view. I did wonder, how soon to the pay-per-view did he record it? Or did he just not send it out at the same time? I don't know. So that came through, which is exciting. And Giselle wins. I felt like she participated the least in the match. That was my impression at the time. I may have been distracted by Alicia too much to notice. Giselle wins, a little bit surprised. But we'll see how it goes going forward. I know she shunned Gail Kim, who's looking beautiful. Of course, I'd like to see more of Gail Kim on camera. And so that was that. And then we had a commentary spot and a replay of Joe Hendry's beatdown. Then we meet the rappers again out in the sort of the lounge area of this venue. They were pretty good on camera, not too bad. I don't know if they're going to be back or what. I had an impression that we'd see them again. Then we go into a PCO match, which some people said, why is that a pay-per-view match? But I suppose that's going to be a bit more of the hardcore match. I don't really remember many weapon spots in this, though. But what did happen was we had Dango telling us that he hates TNA, and that was it. That was enough to get him over as a heel. And PCO. Now, this is perhaps sort of a love or hate thing with wrestling, but it's silliness like this that I can still enjoy and love. It was PCO being reanimated with electricity, sparks, and volts. I thought that was ridiculous and great. The French Canadian Frankenstein. Perhaps not something you'd want on sort of the World Championship belt and that, but I was amused. And I noticed he had a particularly heavy tan, which is quite impressive for a Frankenstein entity. PCO's up for it. The crowd love him. So do I. Ah, yes. It was at this point that the commentary team pointed out that this event, Hard to Kill, 2024, has had the highest attendance for the past 8 years of any TNA Impact show, which is wonderful. DQ match, interference, a beatdown on PCO. Rhino comes out. People like him, fair enough. I was screaming at the TV, please restart the match. And then we get Jake something, who's leaned down a bit recently, but is still quite the beast. And I wonder now, since leaning down, last TNA Impact, he was in the next division match. So I wondered if he's leaned down a bit to be a bit quicker on his feet, because he's going to go for a next division run. It'd be very interesting to see. But well done on him, on his physique change. I always thought he looked awesome. He still looks awesome now. Very happy that he's there. I really like Jake something. Right, and then yes, to really up it a gear, Jake something dived over the ropes to clothesline two opponents. That was the way he entered the ring. PCO does a backwards dive. Crowd is buzzed. PCO is nuts. Off the top rope again. Crowd love it. I was really pleased how vocal and engaged the crowd were, because it makes a huge difference for the viewer, for the atmosphere of the show. It gives me a lot of optimism going forward for the general buzz of watching a TNA show. So hopefully they can get that same sort of crowd on a regular basis for the weekly shows. Of course, Team PCO win. Smiley. A woman gets out of a car. Little cinematic bit there. Commentator says it might be Monet. I have to be honest, I have no idea who that is. Now we have a tag knockout match. My least favourite match of the night, not because of who was wrestling, but because it was a bit short with a week ending. Rosemary worked pretty well. There was a spot where she did some really, really bad punches, which I don't know why we so often see really crap, stupid-looking punches. Just do one or two that are slower and look a bit stiffer, that are guarded, rather than just sort of like flapping your wrists at someone, and it just looks terrible. Rosemary's looking gorgeous. She looks like she slimmed down a bit. Havoc's looking beastly. Didn't really enjoy her time in the match. Felt like it slowed it down a bit. And then they sort of just won. That's how I felt. They're the champs now. Didn't like it. Shouldn't have come back at this pay-per-view and taken the belt so easily. My least favourite match of the night. Then we get a little spot saying there's a TNA Huddle for Health scheme they're doing in unison with the NFL. A short ad for that. We get a Swan Macklin highlight replay. Then we get the Macklin interview I mentioned earlier. It's his first TNA victory. Quote, TNA is mine. End quote. And this is to be an era of mayhem for all. Oh, then we get an awesome. This was great. It's the AAA signing, which is fantastic. I had heard unintentionally that there may be some NXT merger, which I thought was like just really silly. So I'm glad there was nothing like that. And then we get, which could be the best match of the night, the triple threat. Wow, underlined. Chris Sabin, newly signed Japanese star Kushida, AAA star Vikingo. Brilliant. I was clapping at my TV. 10 out of 10. Canadian Destroyer was really nice. I'm glad they only did it once. It's been ruined, hasn't it? Outside of TNA in recent years. Idiots. Fucking idiots. Sabin wins. I expected him to win. Very happy with that. He did a great performance. Really happy for him. Can't imagine how he feels being such a star of great years TNA back in the day. It's just great to see him still in health and still enjoying it, you know. Fantastic for him. Fantastic for us. Yeah. And then this is interesting. I don't know what happened here. Well, I'll tell you one thing that happened. This is when I had some signal issues. So this match was jumpy at the start, which completely fucked up my immersion for it, you know. So I caught maybe 2/3 of this. It was the Hammerstone Josh Alexander match. They played the same sort of hype trailer they'd showed on YouTube and such earlier before the pay-per-view. That got played. And then I missed the beginning, missed lots of the moves at the start. And also, I was so into the triple threat match, and I was so pleased that it was good, because for me, that's such a big part of what makes TNA TNA. And I know you get flippy shit elsewhere, but I always thought like good X Division matches, they really had a good balance between the flippy shit and something that sort of felt like there was still a fight going on with selling and fatigue and whatnot, and not just waiting there forever for someone to fucking jump on you so you can half catch them. Fucking hell. Right. So I was really pleased that the X Division match was solid. And I actually, like, at that point, coming off that, I wasn't interested in the Hammerstone Alexander match. I just wasn't. I think partly because there was not like much to it story-wise. It was just like, this great wrestler's going to fight this guy who's big and really good. that it's. I mean, this maybe is just testament to the strength of the booking of the whole card, really. Um, but yeah, I couldn't get into this technical issues and the triple threat. I was still buzzing off of that, and this just felt a little bit ordinary at that point. But I need to go back and watch it because I can't really comment on it if I haven't really given it a proper go. I thought Hammerstone's music was weak, and I didn't like his band red leather look. Zero intimidation from his look. I wrote. Um, Shit connection missed Josh's entrance. Josh wins. Shame he hasn't signed. Shame Hammerstone hasn't signed. Now the tag match. The Rascals come out first, and I don't like them, but they're good. But I don't like them. But I like not liking them because they're good. No Trent Seven. That sucks. He's newly signed as well, isn't he? Is he British? Sad Smiley. So replaced by the Laredo Kid. I mean, I didn't expect ABC to drop the belts to anyone, especially Bailey because he's got a replacement partner. Okay. The grizzled young vets have just joined. I didn't think they'll win the belts. So it's a little bit predictable in the end result, but the match, highly enjoyable. A couple of awkward slips in one particular corner. Fortunately, no one was hurt. I noticed when on the Laredo Kids slip, Bailey came in and did was it called a poison rana off the top rope, and then he went to go into another top rope spot. But being the wonderful professional man that he is, he signaled Laredo to do a move of his own and to the outside. And I felt like he did that so that the full attention of the crowd wasn't just on Bailey, like Bailey's move, his next move, and it would have come across that maybe he kind of shunned Laredo to the side in a way in terms of attention after his slip. So I thought that was very classy to sort of feed Laredo back into the match, and then he went on to do his really uncomfortable looking. I don't know the name. He flips in the air and lands with his knees on your back. So yeah, TNA is announced to be filming at Orlando, Florida next Friday, Saturday. That's cool, isn't it? Just like the good old days. Yep. ABC retained the belts. But I kind of forgot they were in the match. Kind of didn't see much of them. Maybe it's just my memory. We see some same sort of cinematic about Earth, Wind, and Fire and such elements. And then we get the Jordan Trinity match, which unfortunately I wasn't so excited about because I'm not excited about Jordan winning the belt. And I had a feeling Trinity was going to leave. So it makes it kind of predictable. So, but the match got better. It was pretty good. And then we go to main event with Moose representing the System. And it was at a point when Alex Shelley came to the ring and he sort of stood still for the crowd, like he sort of said, take a picture. He did that. And he turned and did it again. I was like, he's going to lose. He's going to lose because he knows that's the last time he's ever going to wear that belt in his career at TNA. And I didn't make any notes on the main event because it was the main event. I just wanted to watch it. And what I really liked about this pay-per-view was the triple threat and the tag match were great. But this main event, owing to the quality of Shelley and Moose, they put on what felt like a main event fight, singles fight, for a belt. It really felt different to the triple threat and tag match. Not just, because there's only two guys feuding, but they did the big man, little man stuff really well. It was slower paced. It had a nice composure to it. It had the long term selling from Moose. It had well, like most matches, they had the referee and the wrestlers themselves honoring the rules, like Moose working in with the ring out, count out. Um, just great, just good wrestling. Um, and like towards the end, it felt like golden goal in like a football game or a soccer game where the next goal, next point wins. You know, you couldn't really say who was going to win the match. It was great. One guy might get the upper hand, but they're both tired, you know, they're both fighting to their end. And then the other guy gets the upper hand all of a sudden. And it was just really well done, really good wrestling. And I shit myself when Moose won. I screamed. I sound like a hooligan. So much emotion. It was fantastic. Um, it was great. And of course, that bastard Nemeth came in and took Moose's spotlight. But the crowd love him. And his YouTube videos have got like about a million views. His arrival and his like promo bit on TNA Impact is like hit a million. I think his arrival was hit like over 2 million. That's great. That's massive numbers compared to recent numbers for any Impact or any other TNA video as we speak. So that's fantastic to see. He's looking great. The crowd love him. I love the classic. I'm with this promotion now. I'm fucking so high on myself and to be here. I thought that was fantastic. And apparently he stayed for like 10 minutes with the crowd just screaming and having a good old time. Love it. Really pleased with it all. Really pleased with it all. Just enjoyed the wrestling matches. Didn't even need like big surprises or anything, you know. Well, I think they needed something for their momentum and spotlight and attention. So I mean that's worked out with Nemeth. But yeah, just really enjoyed the pay-per-view. Watched with a friend. We rewatched the triple threat match and the tag match and the main event. 3 awesome matches. We both really enjoyed all of those. Yeah, I've still got loads of duck to eat. But I'll get through this. But that was it for the pay-per-view. And I was a bit naive. I thought they were going to do Snake Eyes. They filmed it the next day, right? So you get the same sort of crowd. I wonder how many people bought tickets for both days, right? You know, if you're in town, fuck yeah. Like, you get to see Okada. You get to see Josh Ospreay. My ticket would be all about fucking Moose and Okada at the ring at the same time. And speaking of that, Moose wants to fight him one-on-one. I'm going to put a clip of that in here. He recently said that on Denise, I don't know the full name, but she does some nice interviews. Moose said he wants to fight Okada one-on-one. That's what I want to see. I want to see Okada in a singles match. I've only ever seen him in these sort of large group 3-on-3, 4-on-4 type things, which is just not the same, is it? The psychology is not the same. It's a very different sort of match. I want to see one-on-one. A Moose Okada. They're both going to jump up like 25 feet in the air to do their massive drop kicks. You know? Planets are going to... Planets are going to collide when they do that, you know? I feel like I've missed something out. But no, the opening, pure goosebumps, really well handled, felt real, felt genuine. It was mad because it was only like about, I don't even think a month, less than a month before EY comes out to usher in the new era of TNA. I was talking to him at this odd little local indie show, you know? The world of wrestling. Yeah. I got some TNA chants going at that event, and he smiled. So, speaking of Eric Young, I think we'll close out with a nice, positive, uplifting melody of sorts from Eric Young. So, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the pay-per-view, and I hope there's new fans that have sort of not seen Impact for a few years or ridden it off and tuned into the pay-per-view and thought, wow, it's fucking Cool. That was great. I want to see more of that. And I thought TNA Impact was solid. I've got a review for that. So hopefully they've got some new fans. The future's bright, isn't it? I like Scott D'Amore. I have faith in him. And yeah, and I like that it's just like one show at the moment. One weekly show. I can't be doing this 3 hour shit and 2 times 3 hours or 3-4 shows for a talent that's not even there anymore. And then like, why aren't you even using Jay Lethal? But anyway, I'm gonna finish this duck before it gets cold and unappetizing or lukewarm, room temperature lukewarm. I like cold meat, but I don't want no like room temperature meat. It's just not the same, either hot or cold. So there we go.